Welcome back to the channel World Coins Master everyone, and thank you for joining in on another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare United States coins, where ordinary pocket change can turn into something extraordinary. Today, we are going to talk about a coin that at first glance may look like just another regular piece of circulating money, something you might hand over at a store without a second thought. But hidden within that seemingly ordinary coin is a story that could change the way you look at your loose change forever. We are talking about the 2007 D1 dime coin, a coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike because certain rare era versions of it have been valued at up to $8 million. Yes, you heard that right, a simple 10-cent coin that in some cases can be worth as much as $8 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies that make it one of the most intriguing modern treasures in the world of numismatics. When we think about coin collecting, often the first things that come to mind are old coins from the early years of the United States, or even historic designs that have long been out of circulation. But what is so fascinating about this story is that the 2007 D dime is not ancient, not obscure, and not even particularly rare in its normal form. Millions of them were minted at the Denver Mint in Colorado and released into circulation across the country. But as is often the case in the world of coins, a handful of mistakes, accidents, and small anomalies at the mint created versions of the 2007 D dime that are unlike the rest, and those rare survivors are what make this story so incredible. Imagine holding a coin that looks just like every other dime, but under the right light and with the right eye, you could realize that what you have in your hand is not worth 10 cents at all but potentially millions of dollars. That possibility is what drives collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people to carefully examine the change they carry. To understand why this dime is so important, let's first consider the background of the Roosevelt dime itself. Since 1946, the dime has featured the image of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, created to honor him after his death in 1945. The reverse shows a torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch on the left representing peace, and an oak branch on the right representing strength and independence. It is one of the most familiar coin designs in circulation and is still being produced today. By 2007, the Roosevelt dime was already more than 60 years into its run, and the Denver Mint was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of examples that year. Nothing about the standard dime from 2007 should make it stand out in the eyes of most people. But what makes certain 2007 D dimes unique are the errors that slipped through. Errors in coins can take many forms, and each one tells a story about what happened during the minting process. Some errors involve the planchette, which is the blank metal disc before it is struck into a coin. If a planchette is improperly prepared, clipped, or struck on the wrong type of metal, it can produce a coin that is instantly unusual. Other errors involve the dies, which are the engraved metal pieces used to stamp the design into the planchette. A double die, for instance, can occur when the die itself receives multiple impressions slightly misaligned, which later transfers a doubled image onto the coin. Then there are errors involving striking itself, such as off-center strikes, multiple strikes, or broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar. And, of course, there are mint mark anomalies, which occur when the little letter on the coin, like the D for Denver, is misplaced, repunched, or otherwise unusual. For the 2007 D dime, reports of various types of errors have surfaced, and these are what make it so valuable to collectors. Imagine finding a 2007 D dime struck off-center by a significant margin, perhaps where Roosevelt's profile is shifted far to the side, leaving a blank crescent of unstruck surface. Errors like that instantly catch the eye and make the coin unique. Even more dramatic are double strike errors, where the coin has been struck twice with a noticeable separation between the two images. Such a coin would look like it carries a ghostly shadow of Roosevelt's face, a surreal and fascinating piece of minting history. But some of the most coveted 2007 D dimes are those with mint mark anomalies. The mint mark on coins has long been a focus for collectors, because small differences in the mint mark can lead to major differences in rarity and value. A repunched mint mark, for example, could show the D stamped more than once in slightly different positions. Other times, a fill die might cause the mint mark to appear weak, faint, or missing entirely. Imagine how exciting it would be to discover a 2007 dime that lacks its mint mark, despite being minted in Denver. That kind of rarity makes the coin instantly valuable. Another possibility is the wrong planchette error. There have been instances where dimes were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other coins, such as pennies or foreign currency blanks. If a 2007 D dime were struck on a copper penny planchet, for instance, it would weigh differently, appear in a distinct copper tone rather than the usual silver color of a clad dime, and be a striking oddity that collectors would fight over. Such a coin could easily fetch millions at auction, and it is exactly these kinds of possibilities that make the hunt for rare dimes so thrilling. The $8 million valuation attached to some of these rare 2007 D dimes comes from the perfect storm of rarity, collector demand, and the dramatic nature of the errors. It's not just about how unusual the error is, it's also about how well it has been preserved, how visible and dramatic the error is to the naked eye, and how many collectors are willing to compete to own it. Auction houses have seen incredible bidding wars break out over coins that are one of a kind, and modern error coins are no exception now. Let's imagine how one of these coins might have slipped through. At the Denver Mint in 2007, massive machines were working around the clock to strike millions of dimes. Quality control is strict, but with so much volume, it is inevitable that mistakes sometimes happen. A die might shift slightly, creating an off-center strike. A foreign planchet might accidentally mix into the batch. A mint worker might have to punch a mint mark, and a small misalignment could create a doubled or misplaced mark. These small accidents are normally caught and destroyed, but occasionally a coin or two makes it into circulation, unnoticed, only to be discovered years later by someone paying close attention. What makes this story even more fascinating is that anyone could theoretically find one of these valuable dimes in their change. Unlike historic gold or silver coins that are usually held in collections, error dimes from 2007 may have entered circulation in ordinary ways. This means a coin worth $8 million could be sitting in a jar on a shelf, hiding among thousands of other dimes that are worth only 10 cents each. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, one that requires patience, curiosity, and a little bit of luck. Over the years, collectors have documented numerous varieties of errors for Roosevelt dimes in general, and the 2007 D series is no exception. There are reports of rotated dies, where the reverse design is not aligned properly with the obverse. Imagine flipping over a dime and finding that the torch and branches on the reverse are tilted at a strange angle rather than being perfectly aligned. That kind of error may seem small, but it instantly sets the coin apart as something unusual. Then there are dramatic die cracks, where a flaw in the die creates a raised line across the surface of the coin. Some collectors even nickname such cracks with creative terms like lightning strikes or railroad tracks. Each one is unique, like a fingerprint. The culture of coin collecting thrives on these discoveries. Auction houses, coin shows, and online forums buzz with excitement whenever a new dramatic error coin is found. A coin like the 2007 D dime with a unique and rare error doesn't just represent money, it represents history, a mistake frozen in time, and a story that no other coin can tell in quite the same way. That is what drives collectors to pay astronomical sums for coins that otherwise would be worth almost nothing. As we imagine the journey of such a coin, it's worth thinking about how many hands it might have passed through before being recognized. Perhaps a 2007 D dime with a dramatic double strike sat in a cash register at a gas station for years, unnoticed. Maybe it traveled in someone's pocket for a decade, worn down slightly but still showing its unusual features. And maybe, just maybe, it finally caught the eye of a collector or a sharp-eyed cashier who realized that the dime in their hand wasn't like the others. That moment of realization, of discovering treasure in the ordinary, is one of the most exciting parts of coin collecting. The valuation of $8 million might sound unbelievable, but when you consider the passion of collectors, the rarity of the coin, and the uniqueness of the error, it starts to make sense. Some collectors are willing to pay enormous sums for the prestige of owning a one-of-a-kind coin, something that no one else in the world has. It becomes a centerpiece of their collection, a conversation piece, and a tangible piece of minting history. For them, the price is not just about the metal or even the face value, it's about owning a story, a mistake that turned into treasure. And for those who may wonder, yes, it is always worth checking your change. Today, we will be exploring the story of the 2012 P1 dime, a coin that in certain rare cases has been valued at an astounding $5 million because of its unusual errors, minting mistakes, and anomalies that have turned it from a simple 10-cent piece into one of the most remarkable modern rarities in U.S. coinage. This journey will take us through the details of its minting, the types of errors that make coins like this so valuable, the significance of the Philadelphia Mint mark, and the possibilities collectors dream about when they examine their everyday change. So sit back as we unfold the story of how a coin most people barely notice can end up being worth more than luxury cars, grand estates, or even entire collections of more traditional investments. When we talk about the 2012 P1 dime, we're looking at a Roosevelt dime struck at the Philadelphia Mint. By 2012, the dime had already been in circulation for decades, continuing the design that had first appeared in 1946 after the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Millions upon millions of these coins were produced in 2012, making them extremely common in circulation. At face value, it's just 10 cents, a small piece of everyday currency people don't even pause to consider when they hand it over at the checkout counter. But for coin collectors, numismatists, and treasure hunters alike, hidden among those millions can sometimes be a rarity so significant that its value skyrockets into the millions. That's the story behind the $5 million 2012 P dime, and it all comes down to the mystery of mint errors, striking issues, die anomalies, and mint mark mistakes. To understand why a coin like this can be so valuable, it's important to explore the minting process itself. Coins are struck using dies, which imprint the designs onto blank planchets. When everything goes perfectly, the result is uniform coins that look identical, with crisp details, correct alignment, and proper edges. But perfection is rarely universal in mass production. Errors slip through, and when they do, collectors take notice. In some cases, these errors are subtle, like slight doubling on a date or a faint misalignment in the design. In others, they're dramatic, such as an off-center strike, missing elements, or an unusual planchet being used by mistake. These anomalies not only make the coin unique but also give it immense desirability in the collector's market. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by this P mint mark, has long been a major producer of U.S. coinage. In 2012, it produced hundreds of millions of dimes, which means the odds of error coins being created, though rare, were still possible. What separates a common dime worth only 10 cents from one valued in the millions is not just the presence of an error, but the type of error and how rare that mistake truly is. In the case of the 2012 P dime, collectors have reported varieties of mistakes such as double die obverses, misaligned strikes, unusual planchet compositions, clipped planchets, and even examples where the mint mark itself appears distorted, misplaced, or doubled. Each of these errors adds to the intrigue and increases the potential value. The $5 million valuation attributed to certain rare 2012 P dimes doesn't come from just any small anomaly. It comes from the extreme rarity of a particular combination of mint errors that make such a coin one of a kind. Imagine a 2012 P dime struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps one intended for a foreign coin or another denomination, with a double die obverse and a misplaced mint mark. Such a coin is not only fascinating from a numismatic perspective but is also considered irreplaceable, leading collectors and wealthy investors to pay astronomical sums to own it. In the world of rare coins, it's not just about metal or face value, it's about history, rarity, and the story behind each unique mistake. Another factor that makes error coins so valuable is the sheer difficulty in finding them. Millions of people handle dimes every single day, yet only a handful ever come across a true mint error. This scarcity drives up demand and pushes values higher, especially when the coin in question comes from a recent year like 2012, where most people wouldn't expect a dime to hold significant value. The thought that a simple piece of change from just over a decade ago could now be worth millions is enough to capture anyone's imagination. It transforms ordinary coin collectors into treasure hunters, constantly scanning their pocket change in hopes of discovering a life-changing piece. The Roosevelt dime itself has a long and important history. First struck in 1946, it honored Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, who passed away in 1945. Roosevelt was chosen for the dime in part because of his leadership during World War II and also because of his personal connection to the March of Dimes, an organization he supported in the fight against polio. The dime thus carries both historical and sentimental significance, making any rare or error variety even more appealing to collectors. By the time we reach the 2012 issue, the design had already been in circulation for more than 65 years, yet errors from modern decades remain just as exciting to collectors as older varieties. One of the most famous types of errors that can affect a dime is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin has been imprinted with a doubled image, causing parts of the coin's design, such as the date, lettering, or Roosevelt's profile, to appear doubled or blurred. For a 2012 P dime with such an error, especially if it is dramatic and clearly visible to the naked eye, the value could increase tremendously. Add in other factors such as pristine condition, rarity of the error, and uniqueness, and suddenly the coin is no longer worth 10 cents but millions. Another possibility that makes the 2012 P dime so valuable in rare cases is the existence of off-center strikes. When a coin is not properly aligned during striking, part of the design may be missing, with blank space visible on the planchette. The degree of off-centering affects value, with more dramatic examples fetching higher prices. A 2012 dime struck significantly off-center and in uncirculated condition could easily attract fierce bidding wars among collectors. Then there are wrong planchette errors, some of the most dramatic mistakes in coinage history. This happens when a coin is struck on a blank meant for another denomination or even a foreign coin. Imagine a 2012 P dime struck on a smaller or larger planchette, or even on a copper penny blank. These one-of-a-kind pieces immediately skyrocket in value because they combine the unusual with the verifiable history of minting mistakes. The mint mark itself, that's P for Philadelphia, can also be the source of error. In certain cases, mint marks have been applied improperly, doubled, or misplaced. Collectors who discover such varieties often prize them highly, and when combined with other unusual features, these mint mark anomalies can elevate a coin into legendary status. Condition is another major factor in determining value. A circulated 2012 P dime with a minor error may be interesting but not worth millions. However, if a coin has survived in pristine, uncirculated condition with its error preserved, its rarity and appeal multiply. Collectors and grading services assess coins on scales that measure strike quality, luster, and absence of wear. A top-grade 2012 P dime with a dramatic error could be considered a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The allure of these coins also stems from their story. It's not just about owning metal, it's about owning a piece of history, a mistake that slipped through the minting process and survived unnoticed for years until a sharp-eyed collector spotted it. That story makes the coin more than money. It becomes a tangible symbol of luck, rarity, and discovery. That's why some collectors and investors are willing to pay $5 million or more for a coin that technically began life as a mere 10-cent piece. Now imagine being the person who finds one of these coins. You reach into your pocket expecting to find just another dime, and instead, you're holding a coin that could change your life forever. That thrill is part of what keeps collectors searching, part of what drives the fascination with error coins, and part of what makes the 2012 P dime so legendary in numismatic circles. The excitement grows further when you consider that modern coins like the 2012 dime are still in circulation today. That means somewhere out there, someone could still stumble across one of these rare varieties in their change. It could be in a cash register, a coin jar, or a handful of change from the grocery store. The possibility of discovery keeps the dream alive for millions of collectors and casual hobbyists. The world of rare coins is filled with stories like these, where mistakes and anomalies turn everyday objects into treasures. The 2012 P dime worth $5 million is one of the most compelling examples because it combines modern minting, hidden rarity, and astronomical value. It proves that even in our everyday lives, treasures can still be waiting to be found, and this is only the beginning of the story, because when we look closer at the different varieties of errors and the history behind them, the tale of the 2012 P dime expands even further. Each type of error tells a different part of the narrative, from double dies to clipped planchets, from wrong metal strikes to mint mark oddities. Each discovery adds to the legend of the coin, turning it into one of the most fascinating modern rarities. This journey into the 2012 P dime shows us that value isn't always obvious. A 10-cent coin can be worth $5 million because of the tiniest details, mistakes, or unique circumstances. It challenges